Borrowing money for college can be daunting on its own, but concerns about inflation and rising interest rates are making it all that much more complicated.
Yeah, in the new year, countless students and parents will need to consider if taking out thousands of dollars in student loans is the right decision and how they can best find a deal.
Well, let's bring in Ann Barry. She's the founder of Threadneedle Ventures. And how much is the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes impacting new and existing student loans?
A huge amount. And when you think about students and their overall budget, they're getting really hit hard on both sides of the equation. The average student leaves college with about $30,000 in loans, and we're seeing interest rates somewhere between 5 and 7% on the federal side, even more when private student loans are taken out. And then you also think about these students really suffering from where inflation is hitting the hardest, which is when it comes to rent, groceries, and automotive costs. So overall, the carrying of going to college, both from a debt burden cost perspective and the cost of living perspective, is getting very, very hard for your average student.
Personal question coming up. You can refuse to answer. And did you have to take out student loans for college?
I did, absolutely. And the personal questions are the best, so just keep on coming with those.
Okay. I thought it was going to be personal about your finances, Errol.
Well, no, I was going to share. I had to take out loans. Lana, did you?
Yes, I did. Yes.
I mean, it's very common.
I absolutely did.
And sometimes my issue was I was working while I was in college, so I didn't qualify for certain grants, but I didn't make enough to pay for myself. And talk to us about what are some of the best options available. There's private, there's federal. What are some of the differences? Let's help folks navigate this.
So I took out student loans both for my college degree and also for my graduate degree. And when I came out of my graduate course, I had the double load of student debt. And I was also lucky because I had some scholarship money, and I'm going to start there. Going to student loans really should be as much as possible limited by looking for other sources of scholarship money, grant money first. And it's really interesting when you look at applications for federal aid. The application rates actually went down last year. Families and students are assuming they don't qualify. And I would say, number one, Errol, assume nothing. Apply for everything. The thresholds have changed. And so going for all of those grants and scholarships available is number one. Number two, and you just touched on it, working through college is a really tough one. And when I talk about advocating for it, I wrestle with it because you're going to have some students who have to do it to get through school. You've got other students who have a lot of parental support and don't have to, and it's fundamentally unfair. But if students do need to do it to get the debt burden down, there are companies out there like Quad Jobs specifically looking to help place students. And this still is a very tight labor market. There is a lot of opportunity, particularly over the holiday season and in seasonal periods, for ambitious students to go out and try and get some income in to try and reduce their reliance on credit.
And sometimes it can also help to build out that new resume. But Ann, I think we're also discussing something that it's not just about parents, it's not just about current students, but there are a lot of people who are still carrying the student debt. Should people be refinancing their student loans now? Should they wait? What would you say, given what we expect the Fed to do in really the coming year?
What we all need to be doing is looking at all of the kinds of debt that we as consumers have. So that's starting with the most expensive, which is credit card debt. It's looking at another form of debt that we don't really talking about, which is buy now, pay later balances that people are carrying. It's also looking at mortgages, it's looking at auto loans, it's looking also at student loans. And the most important thing, Laura, is to try and see what are the pieces of credit amongst that spectrum that many Americans are carrying where the interest rates are the highest. Typically, it is credit cards. Student loan debt tends to be actually one of the cheaper forms of credit that's out there, particularly if it's federal. So looking to prioritize which forms of debt to pay down and prioritizing the most expensive is a really important form of budgeting as we go into next year.
So much good advice. And if you don't have kids yet, a 529 saving plan is a great place to stow away your money if it's going to happen in the future, because it's just too expensive to get a good education these days.
All right. Ann Barry, thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.